Welcome back, Camden Catholic. So, this is the flip that the quiz will be based off of that we're having tomorrow. It's all about the Enlightenment thinkers. And in this class, we like to talk about the Big Seven. All right, so now the Big Seven Enlightenment thinkers are all the men that began to question the way that they were governed. All right, so where we thought about the Enlightenment, or where we thought about the scientific revolution, was a big explosion of thought about how we existed in the universe. And then the Renaissance was a big explosion of the mind and how we existed here in our lives, and we questioned things. And those humanist ideas led to the Reformation. Well, the humanist ideals, too, much later on, are going to lead to men questioning their government and questioning the way economies and societies in modern day existence worked and how they should be governed, right? Now, the two up top are the most important ones. You would need to put stars next to their names. And you also need to write down the Enlightenment and what it is. It's a drastic reformation of thoughts on government. It's a drastic questioning of government. It's the idea that men could come together in these French salons, is what they were called, and they would actually meet up and just talk and have coffee and discuss thoughts and treatises on government. Now, we're going to go through Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Baron de Montesquieu, Voltaire, Denis Diderot, and Adam Smith, okay? Now, the Big Seven. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started, though. Thomas Hobbes is the number one guy. Thomas Hobbes is the number one guy for the negative. Here's the crazy part. The Enlightenment actually is a big, remember in history we go cause, effect. Cause, effect, right? So now one cause was absolutism. When people began to be governed by these one-bodied, really big, a lot of personality autocrats, right? These monarchs that were, oh my God, my hair is so jacked up. Anyway, now. So, get out, Jasmine. I'm flipping. This is ridiculous.
I'm leaving.
Every day.
No, it's not.
Every day she comes into my room. All right, anyway, now, when I have planning periods, this is ridiculous. Jasmine Mercado, get it together. Now, anyway, so, Thomas Hobbes believed that absolutism was necessary because men in general, people in general, in nature are cruel, greedy, selfish. They want to fight, rob, and oppress one another. And in a way, I kind of agree with them in a lot of ways, right? If somebody can be bad, they will be bad, right? So anyway, now, to escape this, people are going to enter into a thing that he proposed called the social contract. Now, the social contract, I need you to circle that word 17 times. It's so important. The entire Enlightenment revolves around the idea of the social contract, the agreement, the understanding that people have with their government, that the government has with its people, right? Now, that they give up their freedoms in return for the safety and order of an organized society. Thomas Hobbes says that absolutists are necessary because men cannot structure their own lives, all right? They have to have someone make hard decisions for them. He's very relatable to Machiavelli in a sense like that. Therefore, Hobbes believes that a powerful government like an absolute monarchy is best for society. It would impose order, compel obedience, and would also be used to suppress rebellions. Now, so that's old Thomas Hobbes, white English guy. Now, anyway, moving on though. His most famous work was a book called The Leviathan. Now, Leviathan is a word that's going to come around to talk about monstrous creatures, but he actually is talking about it in the sense of human emotion and human disposition to evil. He's very Plato-esque, right? He does believe that people will be bad if they can be bad, right? Now, Hobbes has been used to justify absolute power in government. Executive branch is taking more power. His view of human nature was negative or very pessimistic. Life without laws and controls would be solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. All right? He's saying if we don't have law, if we don't have order, and if we don't have a mean guy up top, then everybody's going to be terrible, right? So, he's one guy. He's number one. Then you have his worst enemy, the opposite, the antithesis, the bipolar of it, if you will, right? And that's John Locke, right? You've heard this name before. Very inspirational to the American Revolution. His ideas inspired Jefferson to write the daggum Declaration of Independence. But he believes and natural laws and natural rights. There's a very famous word that he uses, inalienable, all right? Inalienable. I-N-A-L-I-E-N-A-B-L-E. Inalienable, as in rights that cannot be stripped from anyone that you are born with, all right? So he believes that at birth, the human being is a tabula rasa, which is a blank tablet, all right? So everything we know comes from the experience or senses. That's a thing called empiricism. That word right there, he believes in empiricism. That's experience-based learning. So, for example, little kids, right? Touch a hot stove, it hurts, now you what? Now you know not to do that anymore, right? So it's evidence-based learning. Now, We are born with rights, according to John Locke. That because we're a part of nature, our very existence, we come from God, right? That God has given us the right to speech, to life, to liberty. And his big thing was not life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. That was Thomas Jefferson who said that. He stripped it from John Locke because John Locke's big thing was life, liberty, and the pursuit of property, right? You are allowed to own things if you so choose. So, but yes, he believes in natural rights. Natural rights is his big thing. I'd highlight that up under his name. This is John Locke, pretty goofy looking dude. You know, normal, English, whatever. So anyway, now, his most famous two works are the two treatises on government, all right? Now, he believes that rulers in government have an obligation, a responsibility to protect the natural rights of people that lives within it. Now, anyway, if a government fails in this obligation to protect the natural order of things, the people have the right to overthrow their government, to take it, flip it over, start over, right? That's where he justifies revolutions. Now you can see where he actually influenced the American one so heavily, right? The best government is one that he believes is accepted by all of the people, which has a limited power, which means it cannot infringe on people's natural rights, okay? So, you can pause me or whatever, but I'm going to keep going so we can keep this thing kind of short. Now, anyway, the next guy, I like to call him by his rap name, J.J. Rousseau. His mixtape is coming out any day now. But Jean-Jacques Rousseau, he is French, okay? He believes... his big thing was he's going to expand off Locke's ideas. Thomas Hobbes is kind of his own thing. He's a very big pessimist. He's no fun. He's like a Debbie Downer. But Jean-Jacques Rousseau also believed that people were basically good, but can be corrupted by society. He actually believes that the absolute monarchy in France was the thing that caused the revolution, right? That a bad monarchy causes revolutions and a good monarchy keeps people happy. He actually compared many of his things back to Elizabethan England because the people loved her, right? So, for Rousseau, the social contract, remember Thomas Hobbes talked about that first, he believed was a path to freedom. He said that people should do their best for their community. That in the social contract, by you doing what you should do for your community will protect you. And a part of that is your government. Now, he also believes in the general will of people, that they should direct the state towards the common good. Hence, the good of the community is more important than individual interests, right? And that if everybody is producing in their community, then the community will be great. So, he believes that people are born good, can be corrupted, but everyone should do right by their people, right? So, that right there, that is Jean-Jacques Rousseau. His entire book is called The Social Contract, or The Principles of the Social Contract and Politics. Now, that's him right there. Frenchman, right? Looks French. Anyway, now, his big thing, his famous work was The Social Contract. J.J. Rousseau questioned authority. He questioned the absolute monarchy and religion in particular, right? Being from France, remember, they were dominantly Catholic for a long time. Now, J.J. Rousseau was passionate. He hated political and economic oppression, and he also influenced later revolutions, both in the middle class and socialist ones. So, we can skip that. Now, this guy's huge. His name is Baron de Montesquieu, all right? Baron de Montesquieu. Baron de Montesquieu strongly criticized the absolute monarchies, and he was a voice for democracy. Baron de Montesquieu, he's got three names. He believed in separating powers. You like what I did there, right? Now, anyway, so the separation of powers is what he believed in. He said the best way to protect liberty was to divide the powers of the government into legislative, executive, and judicial branches, which is what we use now. As you can see, Montesquieu, big influencer in our Enlightenment ideas, right? He believed in checks and balances. He believed that every single government branch should have one up on the other. And then also he studied the history of governments and cultures all over the world. So big thing, Montesquieu, the separation of powers. That's his big thing, okay? That is Montesquieu right there. Good stuff. Profile shot. I respect that because I look better from like this side. No, wait, no. Yeah, this is my good side. That's not my good side. Anyway, now, Voltaire is the next one. Voltaire is French as well. He advocates for free thought, free speech, freedom of religion. His ideas were the basis of our Bill of Rights. Attaboy, Caleb McRae. Good job. Now, he fought against intolerance, injustice, equality, ignorance, and superstition. He believes that you have no right to strip the powers of speech, political thought, political freedom, and religion from people. Now, he attacks idle aristocrats. He really didn't like the nobility in France at all because he said they didn't do anything to help their fellow people. Now, he also doesn't like corrupt government officials, religious presidents, and slave trade. The main thing you really need is right here up at the top. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of politicians, or freedom of politics. Now, he often had to express his views indirectly through fictional characters. His most famous book, write this down, his most famous book was called Candide. It's something that all of you will read when you get to college, and it is awful, but I mean, it makes sense, okay? But it talks about how a man going through his normal life and a man going through being in poor existence, and it shows the government's effects on him as a character. He like gets on a boat at one point. It's annoying. I like Faust better particularly, but that's actually fiction. So anyway, now, or well, so that was fiction too. But he lived in an absolute monarchy in France, and he spoke out against it heavily. So his big thing, remember, is freedom of speech, freedom of religion. Now, that's Voltaire. I'm not a big fan of the hair. All right, anyway, now, so Denis Diderot, all right, DD. He is big thing. He actually had 25 years, and he produced the very first encyclopedia, right? The very first one. The encyclopedia was not just a collection of articles on human knowledge. It was actually intended to change the way that people thought, right? Montesquieu, Voltaire, and others wrote articles that are going to go into it. But his big thing was that information should be accessible to all people. That no one, just because remember, during this time period, if you were poor, you probably didn't go to organized schooling, right? That was something that was reserved for the wealthy. Now, the encyclopedia was not just a collection of articles of human knowledge. It had every idea that was necessary to go inside of it, and he exposed everyone to it. About 20,000 copies were printed between 1751 and 1789, despite efforts to ban his encyclopedia by many absolute monarchs and even the Catholic Church. So, anyway, Denis Diderot. Good guy. The encyclopedia is his big thing. Now, here's the last one. Adam, the money man Smith. All right, anyway, so right here in his S, you should put 2 bars right there because he's all about cash. All right, so he wrote a book called The Wealth of Nations. It's all about capitalism. It's all about how economies work and how actually it's not a king reaping the benefits of an economy. It's that the economy has power over a king. Very, very cool thought process. Smith argued that free market supply and demand should drive economies. He also called this thing called the hidden hand of competition as the only true regulation the economy needs. He says that competition is what keeps people trying to get their product better and stay in business. Wherever there is demand for goods or services, he says suppliers will compete with each other to meet that demand in order to make a profit. Now, we take his ideas today and we form it into a nice little ism. It's called capitalism. And the idea that business owners are actually owned by independent people called entrepreneurs, right? So Smith did believe that the government had a duty to protect society and to provide justice and public works, all right? So that's where we're going to stop. It's a crash course on the Enlightenment. It's the big 7, all right? Study those guys for tomorrow's quiz. I'll see y'all tomorrow, Camden Catholic.